I am here with Al Romano, national champion, came from Solvay, correct? So came from Solvay, won a national championship with the Pittsburgh Panthers with Tony Dorsett in the crew. And of course, myself, Dan Tortora. This is Wake Up Call. In the presentation of Wake Up Call, Off the Rails with Al, as Al Romano and I will be here tonight, College Football Playoff Edition. As we're getting closer and closer to the College Football Playoff, we'll talk about college football, how it is right now, where it can go. We'll put up a graphic for those of you watching and listening on Facebook.com/WakeUpCallDT, as well as on YouTube.com/WakeUpCallDT. So however you're connected with the show, thank you so much for tuning in with us. And of course, you can also be listening on wakeupcalldt.podbean.com. So that graphic that's going up is going to be this one right here. I'll be able to draw on the screen as well, so Al and I can have some fun with this. But Al, we just had the opportunity for me to celebrate 21 years in broadcasting. Started in November of 2003. You were with me at the party, so first and foremost, I want to say thank you for making some time for me.
Excellent time. I can't believe your memory is just insane. You talked to 50 people in there on a personal level, told them what size shoe they wore, what school they went to. It was crazy. How do you do that?
When you care about people, it's easy to remember.
Well, I don't remember anything about you.
You remember to come to the party.
I don't miss parties.
Yeah, so, but no, I appreciate you being here.
It was a great party. Honestly, I was impressed. All the people were just good people. A lot of good family people. It was a great party.
Yeah, we got to have a really good time celebrating, like I said, 21 years in broadcasting, but to me, 21 years of everybody in that room, everybody that sent videos in, and I don't know if you saw it, but Fran Brown surprised me this week, and at his at his press conference for game week for Syracuse UConn, I asked the first question, and in front of the media, live, carried around the world on Cuse.com and on YouTube, he was talking, he looked right at me, and he said, 21 years, right? I said, yeah, Coach. He said, well, I just want to congratulate you. 21 years in anything is incredible. He said, you're a stand-up guy, Dan, and I'm happy that there's people like you in the business. So he totally surprised me by saying it, but I want to thank Coach Brown for that as well.
Yeah, that was nice of him. Very nice of him. You had Drummond there, Syracuse, great.
Yeah, Rob Drummond was there. Isaac Elford, who works with me on Tortora and Elford. Amani Free, who's worked for me, played D1 basketball, and then Mom and Dad said some words.
Yes.
I'm going to give you an opportunity, Al. Is there anything you want to say?
About you?
Yeah, you're going to razz me here tonight?
Well, I was thinking if I got there earlier, because I didn't come until it had already started.
True.
That you were going to want me to say something. That's why I came late.
Fair enough. Well, we're here to talk about the College Football Playoff, and this is Off the Rails with Al. Wake Up Call presents right here at Pizza Man Pub. Of course, we want to thank the Delia family. We want to thank Miss Jordan, who is out here doing her thing, and everybody here at Pizza Man Pub for all the work that they do throughout the many, many years in business. And for those of you that don't know, the Delias had a deal with Mr. Romano, and this all started with Jim Delia Sr. and you opening the business. So.
Yeah, Jimmy was working for GE as a manager of a 5-county service for appliances, and he was fried. I would go visit him at his office, and I kind of thought, you know what? I remember him at his father's place when we were in high school, and what a great product they made. And so I started buying equipment. I go, Jim, you got it. He goes, oh, I can't, Al. He says, I got a family, I got boys. And so after I bought all this equipment, I said, Jim, what are we going to do with all this equipment? I bought 2 ovens and mixers and refrigeration. Anyway, he came in, and it's been great. I mean, couldn't ask for better.
And you and I are due to do something here probably in the College Football Playoff Times, which is do our thing where we do our show and then we both make our own pizza. I think we need to do that again.
Yeah, that was good.
That was fun.
That was good. I just copied you.
I was going to say, you took a lot of my topics.
Well, I didn't want to be a loser, and you are the guy. You are the guy. Okay. So.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. But your pizza was good. I think we both put together some good things. And speaking of putting it together, the college football playoff, I'm going to bring it up on the screen right now. The way that this works, for those that don't know, is the new college football playoff is 12 teams. It's called the 5+7 rule. The top 5 conference champions would make it to automatic bids in the college football playoff. The top 4 of the 5 highest ranked conference champions of the 9 conferences in FBS that are having a conference championship in the postseason, the top 5 highest ranked of those 9 get automatic bids. The top 4 will have a bye. The 5th one is guaranteed a spot, but they're not guaranteed where. They don't have a bye.
Right.
And the 5 could be the 5 seed, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 seed. So they could get the worst seed, but still get an automatic bid. And then the 7 at large are going to be chosen by the 7 highest ranked teams. So for argument's sake, if Oregon was to win the Big Ten, Texas won the SEC, let's say the ACC was won by SMU, so there's 3 right there. And then let's say that Boise State wins the Mountain West and Colorado wins the Big 12. Then you got 5, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 conferences right there. Let's say those conferences are the automatics. So Oregon they get a bye. Let's say they win the Big Ten, they get a bye. The SEC winner, Texas, gets a bye. SMU and the ACC gets a bye. And then let's say that they give a bye to Boise State of the Mountain West, and then Colorado is the 5th automatic bid. They win the Big 12, but where do they go? They could be the 5 seed, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And then everybody else would be left out unless they want to let them in. In that scenario, the 7 at large would be Ohio State, who would be one of the seeds, maybe the 5 seed. Then Penn State, Indiana. Obviously, this will change because somebody's going to lose. Notre Dame, Alabama. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then they would have Miami and Ole Miss, which means Georgia would be out, Tennessee would be out, BYU would be out, Texas A&M would be out, and we wouldn't see a single team from the American Athletic, which would be a travesty. So that's what it would look like for an argument's sake. But let's go back and clean this up here, Al. Let me ask you this question. Does Army, if they go undefeated, do they deserve to be in?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
As opposed to having 4 Big Ten teams or 5 SEC teams?
Well, I was looking at this thing, and, it could be very likely the SEC has as many as 6 teams, which is crazy.
Yeah.
And this is where I feel that let's get down to it.
Yeah.
We finally got 12 teams.
Right.
It's more of a real
When we were sitting here
playoff
last
picture.
time, there was 4.
It was 4.
And we knew every year it was Alabama, another SEC team, Ohio State, and maybe Notre Dame or Michigan or something of that effect. The Big 12 never had a chance. The American had 1 chance. The Pac-12 didn't have a chance. The Mountain West, the MAC, the Sun Belt, and Conference USA weren't even thought about.
Yeah, and that's what happens. They get left. Like look at the ACC.
And what is it about the ACC that the committee doesn't care anymore? They have Miami ranked so high right now. I want people to keep in mind about something. Miami's been ranked in the top 10 in the 3 weeks of the college football playoff rankings for this season, but SMU is 1 and Clemson is 2. Now, keep in mind, Miami has 1 loss, Clemson has 2 losses, so I understand that, but SMU doesn't have any losses in the conference. They have 1 loss overall to BYU, and they only lost by 3, 18-15. So my question becomes, why is Miami considered 5 spots above SMU, who's leading the ACC and who has not lost a game in their first season in the ACC?
Well, I don't know if you want me to really expound on that.
Yeah, tell me what you
I
think.
really think the Big Ten is overrated.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the reasons Penn State's always in there. And yes, he wins 9, 10 games every year. Big deal.
They don't play a lot of ranked teams, though.
They don't. they don't go out of the conference much either.
Well, how about this? Ohio State beats Penn State head-to-head. Penn State gets put 4th in the country. SMU loses to BYU, who was undefeated up until last week, and SMU is 13, and they're still saying SMU is not going to make it, and the only way that they can make it is if they win the ACC championship, because they think Miami is better than SMU, even though Miami is 3rd in the ACC, and SMU is 1st.
Well, why are those arguments settled already in the Big Ten and the SEC?
Right. And why did they say this? And I really hope my eyes were wrong when I saw this on Tuesday, but I saw something that ran on one of the news networks that said Indiana has a 96% chance of making the college football playoff if they lose to Ohio State. Not if they win. If they lose, they got almost 100% chance of making it. So basically, Ohio State, Penn State, and Indiana are going to make it no matter what they do.
No matter what. Yeah.
How does that make sense?
Well,
make it make sense for me, Al.
No, I can't. If I could, believe me, you wouldn't be here. No. What's really strange about it is because they'll end up making the quarterfinals. Okay, and then they can work their way up through the quarterfinals because of their record. It's still better than some of the ones that they have in there with the SEC and the Big Ten.
Yeah,
that's the only way that it could be better for them.
But it's not essentially. I spoke with Mike Houston, who's a longtime college coach, and he's going to be going on to his next chapter at some point here, which I'm excited about for him. And Mike came on the show. He's one of 40 coaches in the country that votes in the AFCA coaches poll every year, or every week. So when you see the coaches poll comes out, one of those votes in there comes from Mike Houston. So him and I were talking. I said, Mike, did you really pick Notre Dame to be in the top 8, top 10? Because if you did, I need you to explain yourself. So him and I were talking back and forth, and I said, Mike, isn't the college football playoff essentially just the SEC Big Ten championship?
Yes. That's how I would answer it. Yeah, with his mindset.
I look, and he said the same thing. I mean, so to me, the two best teams in the country right now are Oregon and Texas. So why is Texas considered worse than Ohio State when Ohio State's claim to fame is beating Penn State in conference, playing nobody out of conference, and losing to Oregon? You know, people talk about, well, Penn State lost to Ohio State, but they're in the top 4. Well, Ohio State lost to Oregon. I've never seen anybody give you a quality loss and try and argue you're losing, except if you're in the Big Ten or if your name is Notre Dame.
Well, when we get to the pretenders and contenders,
yeah,
I'll try to explain it how I think it is.
So if it was going to happen today, what do you got? Who do you think's going to go? Like, who's going to win their championship? Who's going to make it? I know you got some stuff written down here. So if you had to choose the top 5 highest-ranked conference champions of the 9 conferences that'll be playing, because the Pac-12 exists, but they will not be playing a Pac-12 championship. So who do you got?
Well, of course, Oregon.
So you got them as your number 1?
Yeah, I don't think that's arguable.
I agree.
What Notre Dame, I don't even put in the top 10.
Yeah.
Alabama, even with the losses that they have.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would put them up there.
You're gonna put them in.
And then
so you're give me your 1 through 4, the ones that are going to be auto.
Oregon, Texas, Alabama, and Ohio State.
Okay, so, well, no, you're 1 through 4. It's got to be.
Well, okay.
So it's got to be a conference, highest ranked conference champ. So SMU, okay.
SEC.
And then Colorado.
Oregon, Texas, SEC, and I put
Colorado to win the Big 12?
To win the Big 12.
Over BYU.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to agree with you on Oregon at 1 right now, Texas at 2. So that means Texas would win the SEC. Oregon would win the Big 10. I would have SMU winning the ACC, and I'm going to put them at 3. And then I'm going to put Boise State at 4, winning the Mountain West, because in my world, Colorado's going to win as well, and Colorado is going to be the 5th automatic bid They're going to be the 5th auto, but they're not going to get a bye. So I got Boise State getting a bye. So then 5 through 12 for me, I'm going to have Colorado in here. So I'm going to have 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. So I want to know the rest of your field, 5 through 12. What do you got for me? I know you got some in here.
Well, Indiana.
So you got Indiana at what, 6?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to put yours next to mine. So you got Indiana at 6. Who's at 5?
I had
Ohio State.
Ohio State.
Okay. And then who's your... So you got Ohio State playing who? You got them playing Boise.
Playing Boise.
Okay. And then you got Indiana playing who? Who's the 11?
Well,
You got them Ole Miss.
Ole Miss.
Okay. All right. And then who do you have 7 through 10?
Penn State 7.
You got Penn State at 7. Okay. Who's 8?
8 would be. Who do I have for 8?
You got 8 on the next page.
Oh yeah.
So you got 8 is Notre Dame.
Notre Dame.
Okay. Who's your 9?
Alabama.
Okay. And your 10? Your 7-10 is Penn State versus
Georgia.
Georgia. Okay. So that's Al Romano's field. So your field has Ohio State versus Boise State in the first round. So you got Ohio State, Boise State. You got Indiana versus Ole Miss.
Right.
Okay. You got Penn State versus Georgia.
Georgia.
Good luck with that, Penn State.
Yeah, really.
And you got Notre Dame versus Alabama. Okay.
Good luck with that one, too.
So of that first round, before I give mine, what are your thoughts on this? Ohio State, Boise State, Indiana, Ole Miss, Penn State, Georgia, Notre Dame, Alabama. Who do you got winning in those first rounds? Who are your winners?
Each one?
Yeah, who's your each winner?
Alabama, no doubt.
So you got Alabama over Notre Dame.
This is absolutely a joke. Georgia, absolutely.
Georgia over Penn State.
Penn State.
Agreed.
Yeah. And Ohio State, no problem.
Over Boise. Okay.
Boise, and who's my...
Then you got Ole Miss, Indiana.
Ole Miss.
Okay. Do you think Ole Miss is the most dangerous SEC team, or is it Texas?
Oh, Texas.
Texas?
Yeah.
How dangerous do you think Ole Miss is? They just beat Georgia on the road.
Yeah, well, that's the only real claim to fame. If you looked at their...
Okay.
I mean, they're where they're at because of that win.
They're where they're at because of the win. Okay. All right. So...
That's my opinion. But.
All right. I could roll with you on it. So I'm going to put the big board back up here for me. So if Indiana beats Ohio State, it's just going to be tough for me to make this field here. But I'm going to have to do this reluctantly. I'll put Ohio State at number 5, so I'll agree with you on that. And then at number 6, I'm going to put Indiana, because if they have one loss or no losses, I'll put them there. At 7, this is where it's going to get interesting for me. At 7, I'm going to put Ole Miss at 7. Well, let me see here. They got 2 losses. So if they got 2 losses, well, let's see how this figures itself out. If Penn State loses again, they may not lose again. So
the schedule they have.
No, because they got Purdue. So let me put Penn State at 7. And then I'm going to say that Army beats Notre Dame this week.
Whoa!
So if Army beats Notre Dame, then I don't want to hear anybody talk about Notre Dame anymore.
That's right. I would love to see that.
So if Army beats now, because what they have to do in that game is they have to condense the clock. They got to get big possessions. They got to run the ball. And, Bryson Daly has been fantastic. 21 touchdowns, over 1,000 yards rushing, 1 interception on the season. So they've done a good job. So if they could do that, let's say for argument's sake, Army wins. Now, this is what I want in a perfect world. I'm not going to get it, but if it was the Big Ten or Notre Dame, they would do this, is if Army beats Notre Dame, they switch spots.
Right.
So they go from 19 to 6, and then Notre Dame comes down.
That's right.
So I'm going to put Army in at number 12 because they're going to go undefeated. in this argument. So I'm going to have Army at number 12. So that means that, do I want to put in another ACC school? I think that Miami is vulnerable. So I'm going to put Alabama at number 8. I'm going to put Ole Miss at number 9. I'm going to put Georgia at number 10. And I got Tennessee. I got BYU, Texas A&M. I'm going to put Tennessee. Do I want to put Tennessee? Well, somebody's got to come in. Oh, Colorado's got to come in here. Sorry, they're my 5th automatic bid. So I'm going to put Colorado in. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to put Alabama at number 8. I'm going to put Colorado at number 9. And I'm going to move everybody else down. So Colorado's going to move down. So then Ole Miss is going to be 10. And Georgia, who they beat, is going to be 11 because they beat them head-to-head. So those are my matchups. So I have Oregon 1, Texas 2, SMU 3, Boise State 4 conference champions of the Big Ten, the SEC, the ACC, and the Mountain West, respectively. My 5th conference champion, Big 12, Colorado. They're going to end up getting the 9 seed because, again, the 5th highest-ranked conference champion is not guaranteed a seed. They're guaranteed a seed. They're not guaranteed 5.
Right.
So I'm going to put them at 9. So I got Ohio State versus Army. I got Indiana versus Georgia. I got Penn State. Well, that's a good one. I got Penn State versus Ole Miss, which I think they had last year. And then I have Alabama versus Colorado. So I got, it could have been the Geico commercial, but it's not because Deion Sanders was in it with Nick Saban. So I got Ohio State, Army, Indiana, Georgia, Penn State, Ole Miss, and Alabama, Colorado for the first round of the expanded playoff. So I'm gonna work my way from Alabama. Alabama and Colorado. I'm gonna pick Alabama, but I think it'll be a good game. Ole Miss over Penn State. I'm gonna pick Georgia over. What?
Interruption.
Yeah.
Alabama who?
Crimson Tide. Over Colorado.
Colorado?
Yeah, over Colorado.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So Alabama, Ole Miss over Penn State, Georgia over Indiana, and then we get to see who the contenders and the pretenders are between Ohio State and Army, because Army's going to try and bring that in real difficult.
I don't know if there'll be any survivors left of Army after the first game.
So I'll say Ohio State in this. So that means if Ohio State wins that, they're the 5 seed. Georgia wins, they're going to be the 11 seed winning. Ole Miss will win as a 10 seed, and Alabama will win as an 8. So then it'll restructure itself for the next round. But let's stop there for a minute. Do you think Army can do it?
No.
No, you don't think they can make it?
You don't go to the academy to play football. For the most part. They're there to save our lives in the next 6 years.
Well,
okay.
I think they could do it this year.
I just don't think they can body up to the. I don't think they can
Notre Dame?
body the body to Notre Dame.
Okay. All right. Well, if we looked at the college football playoff as if it were to happen today, so let's look at the college football playoff bracket. So if we look at the college football playoff bracket today, this is how it would shake out. Because I just want to look at matchups here. So they got all these matchups, and they say, okay, so we look at the top 25. All right, so I just want to look at the bracket. So Boise State's going to play the winner of the 5-12. So the 4 seed plays the winner of the 5-12.
Right.
So you got Boise State playing Ohio State in the first round. In my bracket, Ohio State would play Boise State in the second round because they would be the 5 seed there. And then we have the winner of the 8-9 is going to play the number 1. So that means Alabama is going to play Oregon in my bracket. And for Texas, and once again, folks, this is right now. Things can change after this week. So we're giving you a hypothetical based on what we think at this moment. If somebody loses, and they have 3 losses or 2 losses, it changes.
It changes everything.
So the 7-10 matchup, I have Ole Miss winning. So Ole Miss is going to be playing up against, where's my 7-10? Ole Miss is going to be playing Texas. That'll be a good game. And then my final one is that Georgia is going to play SMU. So I got Oregon, Alabama, Texas, Ole Miss, SMU, Georgia, Boise State, Ohio State. Al, for you, your winners were Ohio State over Boise State in the 5-12. Yep. So for you, Al, you're going to have, because you had what? You had Oregon, you had Texas,
SMU,
and Colorado. Okay. So, Mr. Romano, you'll have Colorado versus Ohio State. You will have your 2 is Texas. So your 7-10 matchup is what? Your 7-10 is Georgia.
Yep.
So you got Texas versus Georgia. You got your number 1 seed, Oregon, is the 8-9. So your 8-9 is going to be, who's your 8-9 here? Notre Dame and Alabama. So you got Alabama. So you got Oregon, Alabama. Okay. And then your other one is Ole Miss against SMU. So you got Oregon, Alabama, which I also have. You have Texas, SMU. Or Texas, pardon me, Georgia. Texas, Georgia. You have SMU, Ole Miss, which we just flipped those because I have Texas, Ole Miss, and SMU, Georgia. And then you have Colorado versus Ohio State. I have Boise State versus Ohio State, which is your first round. So what are your thoughts on that? Oregon, Alabama, Texas, Georgia, SMU, Ole Miss, Colorado, Ohio State. How do you feel about those?
You want to always say Alabama.
Yeah.
It just seems natural. But I think they're going to have a hard time against Oregon. I think Oregon's got a great team.
Okay, so you're going to go with Oregon.
Yeah.
What about Texas and Georgia?
I think Texas can beat Georgia.
Okay. SMU, Ole Miss.
SMU.
Look at you, Al. Giving my guy Rhett, if you're watching, because him and I have a great relationship. Rhett, Al Romano knows what it takes to win a national championship.
That's right, well, from what I can remember.
Yeah, shout out to you, Rhett. So, yeah, Al likes to tell everybody that he carried Tony Dorsett into a championship.
No, he did. I didn't even know he was on our team.
You didn't?
No.
Okay. He did say that you watched him in the shower, though.
Oh,
he did say.
Don't go there.
Okay.
I could get worse.
Okay. You got Colorado, Ohio State.
Ohio State.
Okay. So your Final Four is Oregon, Texas, SMU, Ohio State.
Right.
That's what your Final Four looks
Yes.
like. So your Final Four is going to have 2 versus, so the 2-3 and the 1-4. So yours is going to be, okay, so the 1-4. So you're going to have Oregon versus Ohio State.
Right.
Which is a rematch from this season. And Texas versus SMU.
Right.
Who wins? Oregon, Ohio State, Texas, SMU.
I'm going to stay with Oregon.
Okay.
But I think Ohio State, it's good. If it comes to it, it's going to be one of the best games.
Okay.
Okay.
32-31 game earlier this season. Oregon won the game.
Right.
So, okay. Texas, SMU.
Texas.
How about this? Texas and SMU both called the state of Texas their home. So SMU hailing from Dallas. So you're going to go with Texas? So you got what I consider the 2 best teams in the country fighting it out for the national championship. So your national championship is Oregon versus Texas. I'm going to hold you on that for a second. I'm going to have Oregon in my bracket beating Alabama for argument's sake. If it were to happen today, I have Oregon over Alabama, and then I have Texas over Ole Miss, but I think that'll be a hell of a game. SMU, Georgia. I know that SMU can play a good defensive game, and I know Georgia struggles with those, so I'm going to pick SMU. And Boise State, Ohio State. How about this, Mr. Romano? Boise State's running back's got like 9,000 yards right now.
No, without a doubt, he's the best running back coming out of college.
So, guess what I'm going to do here? Ohio State doesn't challenge themselves in their non-conference play. they're going to get challenged in this one. I'm going Boise State in this one. So that means I got Oregon versus Boise State if it happened today. I got Oregon versus Boise State, and I got Texas versus SMU like you did. And I'm going to go Oregon and Texas because I believe, like I said, they're the best teams in the country. So I think this will shake out, and we'll actually get to see the two best teams in the country get to play each other this season for the first 12-team national championship.
What's this kid's Ashton what? Tenney? What's his last name?
For what?
Running back.
The running back for Boise State.
It's Ashton.
Yeah, so it's
Tenty or
it's Ashton. I want to make sure that I say his name
yeah,
right.
I'm not saying it right.
It is Ashton Genty.
Genty, okay.
Genty, yeah.
Anyway, he's already got 1,893 yards.
Yeah.
And he hasn't finished the season.
How about this? He averages 7.4 yards a carry, 1,893 yards, 256 carries, 26 rushing touchdowns, and at one point this season, he was averaging 9.9 yards a carry. So he was by himself averaging pretty much a first down every time he touched the ball.
Right. I read up a little bit on him, and I guess he's a real down-to-earth kid.
Yeah.
You know, he's well liked. You know, he's not like you in the broadcasting business.
Oh, okay. Oh, the media doesn't like me. I'm not going to pretend that they do. I'm not there for them to like me. I think the more you get hated by your peers in your profession,
the better you're doing.
Right. So, and if they all team up against you, how strong do they think you are? So, yeah, Genty is incredible. So but we both have Oregon and Texas. We both ended up in the same place.
And we didn't put this thing together.
Together, no.
Yeah, together.
Just like when we do the mock draft, and I never see yours, you never see mine, and we are almost like we're like right on target, or we're the same position, or we're one off. So Oregon, Texas, who's going to win the national championship?
Texas.
You think so? Okay.
I don't know. They're just tough. I mean, I like Oregon, but Oregon seems to be more finesse.
Okay.
Texas is smash mouth.
They are.
You know, that's the kind of football I like.
Well, you have Ewers and you have Manning. They got two starting quarterbacks on the same Texas team. I'm going to tell you a little story if you haven't heard the show recently about Dylan Gabriel. Dylan Gabriel, his second ever college football game, he had to play against LSU in a bowl game because Mackenzie Milton got injured. So Dylan Gabriel and UCF had won 25 games in a row, I think. They're the only team that I know in the history of anything, any team, any level, any sport, where you go undefeated, lose pretty much your entire coaching staff, and go undefeated the next regular season, and you do not lose until the bowl game, and everyone's like, well, they lost to LSU, so you see, they don't belong. They lost by 8 points with a quarterback playing his second college football game. Dylan Gabriel was good at UCF, and people didn't care. Then he went to Oklahoma. He was good there. People started caring. He leaves Oklahoma, and what happens? They stink this year. And he goes to Oregon, and what happens? They're the number one team in the country. So Dylan Gabriel was good 4 or 5 years ago, but I'm happy that you have finally caught up to the fact that now he's on Oregon, you care. But he was good at UCF, he was good at Oklahoma, and now he's good at Oregon. So we see what they can do here. Oregon up against Texas, but I agree with you, Mr. Romano. I'm going with the Texas Longhorns to win the national championship because I think that what other team in America can lose their starting quarterback and then pulverize you with their backup quarterback? So I got to go with, but I do think if we get to see Oregon versus Texas, which I think is the true 1 versus 2 this season, outside of anything crazy happening, if we see Oregon and Texas, I think the nation and the world will actually get to see the two best teams fairly fight for a national championship.
I think so.
But in my bracket, I got Boise State, I got SMU, and I got Army all making it because I think it's a travesty if they pick one of those three.
I agree with your issues with Boise State. I just don't think that they're going to let this kid run wild. I mean, the cat's out of the bag.
Nobody can stop him.
Well, I don't believe that either.
You think somebody could stop him? Okay.
Well, yeah, it's not going to be one. It's going to be two guys.
Okay. Trying to stop him. Well, so
the kid is
phenomenal.
Obviously it's sensational.
Do you believe that, I mean, you and I both picked Colorado to make it, to win the Big 12. I had them as the 5th automatic. You have them as the 4th. Right now they're 16th in the rankings. Why do you believe in Deion Sanders and Colorado?
Well, I think he is the best salesman in the history of head coaches. And every one of those kids bought in. But it's not a bad thing because he knows what he's talking about.
Right.
He's been there. He's done that. I just don't think they hit the personnel to go any further than that conference. Because if you bring up the schedule for that conference and who they played,
Yeah, for Colorado.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you bring that up, just run down the conference.
Okay, so we take a look at who Colorado played inside of the Big 12 this season. In their return to the Big 12 from the Pac-12, they were an original member of the Big 12. If we look at what that conference looks like, which has 16 teams in it, mind you, Colorado, they beat North Dakota State in a shootout against the typical FCS champion. They lost to Nebraska, who was unranked, North Dakota State unranked. They beat at Colorado State unranked, beat Baylor at home unranked,
Arizona.
at UCF unranked at home. They lost to Kansas State, who for some reason has been ranked in the top 20 3 times and lost all 3 of those times when they've been ranked in the top 20. So Kansas State they lost to. They beat Arizona on the road unranked, beat Cincinnati at home unranked, beat at Texas Tech unranked, beat Utah at home unranked. So they don't have a single ranked win. Colorado sounds like a Big Ten team.
I love it. I love it.
They do. So, and now they have to play at Kansas. Kansas just played spoiler on the road at BYU and ruined their undefeated season. So Kansas actually helped Colorado in getting closer to playing for a Big 12 championship.
I mean, the only team that I like out of that whole conference other than Colorado was Cincinnati.
Yeah.
And they didn't have the year they normally have, but they're usually a tough team.
Right. And
Arizona was not that good this year.
And Arizona State still has a shot.
And Nebraska, it was awful this year.
Yeah, so I mean, when you look at this, you look at the BYU and Colorado, Arizona State, they still got a shot. Baylor's been underwhelming this year. If we take a look at, just for argument's sake, just for giggles, we're going to go to the Big Ten, and we're going to take a look at Ohio State first, and then we'll take a look at Penn State. So Ohio State's considered the second best team in the country. Here's their schedule. Win over Akron, unranked. Win over Western Michigan, unranked. Win over Marshall, unranked. At Michigan State, unranked win. Win at home against Iowa, unranked. Lost to Oregon, who was top 3 at the time, ranked in the top 3. They lost that game on the road. Win over Nebraska, unranked. Win at Penn State. Penn State was ranked because Penn State, typically Michigan and Ohio State are always ranked. Win over Purdue, who's the only team that hasn't won a game in the Big Ten this year, unranked. Win at Northwestern, unranked. So what has Ohio State shown you out of conference? Nothing. What have they shown you in conference? That they beat Penn State?
Yeah.
What's Penn State's claim to fame? They beat Illinois. Illinois is 25th.
Yeah.
So look at Penn State and look at Ohio State. They both have one win against a top 25 team. Do you know who has 2 wins over a top 25 team this year? Syracuse. And so Syracuse is not even sniffing the top 25, but these 2 are in the top 4. Explain it to me, Al.
ACC.
Why is the ACC hated? They used to be loved.
Well, when Clemson was winning.
Yeah. But is it just Clemson and nobody else? I mean, SMU has to win the ACC championship to even have them talk about them. And they still think Miami's good. And I'm going to keep an argument here because what's good for the goose is good for the gander. I can't just say that Ohio State, Penn State don't play anybody. I got to bring up Miami because Miami, ladies and gentlemen, they haven't really played anybody either. At Florida, unranked, win. Florida A&M, unranked, win. Ball State, unranked, win. At South Florida, unranked, win. Virginia Tech, unranked, win. At California, unranked, win, which they had to come back to win. At Louisville, unranked, win. Florida State, unranked, win. Duke, unranked, win. Lost to Georgia Tech, unranked. Miami doesn't have a single top 25 win.
Duke was ranked at one time.
At one time,
Yeah.
Louisville was as well.
Okay.
But we're looking at them at the time of play, and Miami doesn't have a single top 25 win.
Yes, you're making a point. But the point is, university for university, you've got way better players in the Big Ten, I think, overall,
Overall.
than
Okay.
you do with
The ACC?
in the ACC.
I don't know. The quarterbacks of the ACC are pretty stunning this
Yeah.
year, Al. There's a lot of really good quarterbacks. You got Kevin Jennings for SMU. You have Cade Klubnik for Clemson. You have Miami with Cam Ward. You have Kyle McCord, who set a bunch of records and could be setting more for Syracuse. So there's a lot of good to be had here. And you got former Alabama guy at Pittsburgh doing his thing with
Right.
Eli Holstein.
Yeah.
What happened to Pittsburgh?
I don't want to talk about it.
They're 7-3. They were
Here
seven
they're
and they were
7 and
7-0. They've lost 3 in a row.
They lost, but the one that upsets me the most is Virginia.
Okay.
Virginia is a must-win, and they just were never. They just were never in the game.
Yeah.
It was like they were coming from behind the whole game. And
Well, Tony Elliott probably saved his job in Virginia because they had them losing this year, and Virginia right now is 5-5, one win away from going to a bowl game. But at SMU, Virginia, at Clemson, at home against Clemson. I mean, was Pittsburgh a pretender this year?
yes.
They absolutely annihilated Syracuse.
Well, I was there. I was on the field, and
For that game?
I've never seen anything like it.
Al, 41-13. I was in New York City watching that game on a date with a girl who had never watched Syracuse football before, and I was like, I looked up at God, and I'm thinking in my head, I'm going, this is the first game that she sees of my hometown, and it's one of the most embarrassing games I've ever watched them play.
You know, I'm on the field with a lot of ex-players, and we were watching the game, and after the first half, we just couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
It just, of course, we were happy, but at the same time, I'm caught in the middle, and
Yeah.
they know that. And it was a bad game for Syracuse, obviously.
It was an awful.
I mean, how would you like to have this in your resume? It's the first time this has ever happened. 5 picks, 3 for touchdowns. 5 interceptions, 3 for touchdowns.
Gross.
That's crazy.
Pittsburgh's defense was better than Syracuse's offense in scoring, which is insane. But Syracuse has responded well,
Yeah.
and I predicted in the preseason that they would at least be 8-4, and they got 2 shots to be 8-4 this year. They got UConn at home and Miami at home. How about this history, Al? Did you know, speaking of Miami, the last time, now Miami and Syracuse have been in the ACC together. Since Syracuse joined, them and Miami have been in the same conference of the ACC for over a decade. They've only played each other one time. That was the problem with the ACC scheduling in recent history, is that you could be in the same conference as an opponent and not see them. Syracuse saw Duke 3 years in a row, or 3 or 4 years, and they didn't see Miami all but one time in the last 11 years. The last time that Miami came to the Dome, Syracuse and Miami were in the Big East together.
Right.
And it's to the day of the year and to the day of the week. Saturday, November 30th, 2002, and they will play each other 22 years later to the day of the last time they were in the Dome.
Only you would know that.
It's insane. And I'll tell you this, the only part of history you don't want to repeat itself is Miami absolutely massacred Syracuse in that game. They scored almost 60 points.
Well, when we won the conference 3 years ago,
Yeah.
Miami was the only team that really handled us.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, in Miami, again, I mean, they were turning a corner with Mark Richt in a couple of years, and then he stepped down, and now Mario Cristobal's got them out there doing their thing. So he's done a pretty good job coming from Oregon. But any other thoughts, because we talked about the CFP, any other thoughts about where we're at right now in college football, Mr. Romano? Anything you want to say about Syracuse this year, the way that they've done in Fran Brown's, not only Fran Brown's first year at SU, but Fran Brown's first year as a head coach, coming from Georgia, winning 2 national championships as an assistant?
What can you say? The guy's fantastic. The players that I've talked to, the one thing they keep saying is that Coach Brown he's positive all the time. Or you gave up an interception. You know, he's never one of these in your face. What the hell's going on?
Yeah.
Your head's up your ass. You know, like the old grab the face mask, shake his head up a little
Al's
bit.
first swear.
Right.
How many
What?
minutes? 46 minutes in, Al. You did so good.
Ass is not a swear word. A friend of mine might be watching this.
You made it 46 minutes.
My good buddy from Pittsburgh.
You know what? It's not the longest you have ever gone, though. You made it over 50 minutes before.
Yes, but I do that just to piss you off.
Okay. We're on the internet, so technically we can let it fly, but it is a family show. Did you think that Syracuse in the expanded ACC with 17 schools, did you think Syracuse would be in the top 4?
No.
They're in the top 4 right now.
Right.
They're above Louisville, Georgia Tech, Duke, Pittsburgh, North Carolina, Virginia Tech, Wake Forest, Boston College, NC State, Stanford, Cal, and Florida State. The only teams better than Syracuse this season in the ACC, SMU, who they didn't play, Clemson, who they didn't play, and Miami, who they'll play to end the regular season. Crazy. I want to tell you something about a guy named Kyle McCord, though. So, Kyle McCord, the quarterback of Ohio State,
yeah.
who is now the quarterback of the Syracuse Orange. I talked to him all throughout the season and got a lot of respect for Mr. McCord. I'm going to tell you a little story about Kyle. So here's my story about Kyle McCord. No one in Syracuse football history at quarterback, he's got over 3,000 yards right now. Could have 4,000 this season. Before the season's over, I would anticipate he will. So I want to tell you something about Kyle McCord and about Syracuse. When you think about Syracuse football and quarterbacks, you think about Don McPherson, Donovan McNabb, Eric Dungy, Ryan Nassib, Marvin Graves. No quarterback in Syracuse history ever went 4 consecutive games having at least 300 passing yards in each game. Kyle McCord not only did it in 4 consecutive, he did it in his first 4 in Orange. If you look at Kyle McCord on the season, he didn't do 4 in a row. He did 7 in a row this season to start the season. And this is how Kyle McCord goes this season. First game of the season, he had 354, then 381, 339, 385, 355, 346, 321. Virginia Tech, he had 280, which ended the 7-game streak. Since then, against BC, 392, 323 against Cal. So he went 7 straight games of 300 or more passing yards at Syracuse. He has 9 of 10 that he's had at least 300 yards passing. No one in Syracuse history has ever had 4 in a row. He had 7, and he has 9 of 10 of at least 300 yards.
Right.
He's insane.
Oh, no.
24 touchdowns to 12 interceptions, and he has also ran this season for a couple touchdowns, and his completion percentage 64%, and it's been over 70%, and it's been close to 70%. It was 69.2, 69.6, 73.8, and 68.6 are his best ones.
Wow.
And they beat 2 ranked teams. Could have beaten 3 if they beat Pittsburgh. They lost to Stanford.
I felt was...
Stanford struggled in the ACC. Right.
Stanford was not that good.
And they struggled in the ACC this year, Stanford, in their first season. But I will say with Ashton Daniels and their coaching staff and And in general, I think Stanford is better than people think they are. I think there were more than the record, and it's going to take time. I had Stanford and Cal both in the bottom tier of the ACC in their first season, and I said about SMU, I said, don't overlook them and don't be surprised if they do some good things. I didn't think they would be number one, but I had them in the top 7. Any final notes you'd like to make, Mr. Romano?
Well, it seems that Stanford, in the previous conference they were in, was much better.
On the Pac-12, yeah. Well, the Pac-12 was wide open every year.
Well, everybody was afraid going to Stanford.
Yeah.
So,
Stanford and Duke, though, similar schools. So, any final note that you'd like to make? Anything you want to say about? Anything you want to say? College football? You want to say something about Jimmy Delia, who's cooking right now?
No, I was talking about my friend. I gave him the information you gave me so that he could be possibly watching this.
Okay. What is his name?
Jim Marcillo.
Jim Marcillo?
Yeah, out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Jim Marcillo, if you're watching out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, I want to send you our love. I do want to tell you this, Al. I know for a fact that I have interviewed, been to, and or broadcasted from 31 of the 50 states in the United States so far, and 32 if you count Washington, D.C. And we have had listeners, viewers, and supporters from Germany, the United Kingdom, Italy, Spain, France, the Middle East, Russia, China, Mexico, and Canada that I know of.
I know why.
Because of you? Because of Al?
No, they speak other languages and they don't
They have
know
no
what
idea
you're
what we're
talking
saying.
about.
Listen, there's translators. So with that being said, I gave him another opportunity to say something nice, and he didn't take it.
No,
So-
the only reason I brought the two my favorite people in the world, Jimmy Marcillo and Steve Gosted, who both played on our championship team, and
Yeah.
I called them. I already had my notes.
Yeah.
I wanted there's perspective.
Okay.
And he followed right along, and he said what I thought he was going to say. But the thing that we all seem to be different on is this NIL thing. And,
Yeah.
we all think it's a bunch of bullshit, but you got to live with it right now. Excuse me.
If they could get some parameters around it, I wrote an article about it. If you want to check it out, it's on wakeupcalldt.com. Look for the NCAA logo. It's on our articles page, which is called Paper Trail. And if you take a look at the article, it ends with saying, if we don't put a fence around the barn, we're going to be chasing the horses every night.
You know what it is? You don't need the NIL. It's pay and play.
And just have
That's all we got here.
straight across the board.
This is kind of like baseball season where you got the college guys and the AAAs. They're the AAA guys getting paid.
Yeah.
And then you got the NFL guys.
Yeah.
And what about this kid? This kid out of Michigan. This quarterback out of Michigan. They're going to pay him $2.35 million.
Yeah.
He's in high school right now. It's out of control.
Let me tell you something. Speaking of millions of dollars, Northern Illinois went to South Bend and beat Notre Dame. Do you know how much they got paid to beat Notre Dame? Northern Illinois got paid $1.4 million to play that game, and they won. So, happy NIL to all of you Huskies out there.
Yeah. Really.
With that being said, for Al Romano, for myself, Dan Tortora, this is Wake Up Call presents Off the Rails with Al, Pizza Man Pub, 50 Oswego Street in Baldwinsville, New York. Come here every single month and see us on stage. And, of course, Wake Up Call is for you live every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. You will find Wake Up Call on the same channels you're on right now, 9 to 11 a.m. Eastern Time, around the world, Monday through Friday, youtube.com and facebook.com, both /WakeUpCallDT, and on live internet streaming radio on wakeupcalldt.podbean.com. Once we go live, we go to the archive, and you can find all the shows, including Off the Rails with Al, that we put on to Amazon Music, Audible, iHeartRadio, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts, Player FM, Podbean, Podchaser.com, Podvine, Spotify, TuneIn, and YouTube. Search Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, or one word, Wake Up Call DT. For now, from the beautiful stage here in sunny Central New York, for Pizza Man Pub, for the Delia family, for Al Romano and myself, Dan Tortora, have a beautiful night. Stay safe, and as we always say on the show, God bless, no stress, do your best.
Yes, I want a T-shirt that says it on.
All right, well, we got them, and you can get yours as well on our merchandise website. We're charging Al double. You guys get to pay regular price.